Hello, everybody, and welcome to the grand finals of the Pokemon trading card game Top Cut Invitational. This is our fourth Invitational. We started this off maybe like 4 hours ago, and we are down to 2 players.
Yeah, that's right.
I like how you just gave me a blank stare.
Thanks for that nice lead-in. We are down to 2 players, like you said. Ross Cawthon, 2-time Worlds finalist, and Ryan Sabelhaus, our previous Top Cut Invitational champion. So we may see a back-to-back winner. Ooh, we're pretty excited for that.
I just realized people might not know who we are.
Yeah?
I didn't actually introduce this. I'm Josue Crimz Rojano, and he's Kyle Pooka Sucevich, in case you guys didn't know. So we do have Ryan Sabelhaus against
Ross
Cawthon.
Yeah.
I was about to say Yamato, but then I realized that Yamato just lost last round.
Yeah.
But yeah, Yamato actually got defeated by Ryan Sabelhaus, and now Ross Cawthon is going up against Ryan Sabelhaus. And this is going to be a pretty cool and interesting match.
Yeah, it should be. I mean, these guys are both playing something a little unusual. Ryan going with the Trevenant Excelgor deck. We kind of thought that deck was dead because Rojano EX exists, but no, he decides to play it anyway and faces all people who don't have Rojano EX, so he wins. Unfortunately, Ross also does not play Rojano EX. He just has Landorus EX, Raichu, Drifblim, Mewtwo, even a Charizard EX in there somewhere.
Yeah, that's what I heard.
Yeah, nothing good against Trevenant, though. So it seems like a lopsided matchup, but you never know what can happen.
Well, the thing is, Charizard EX could theoretically be good against Trevenant, assuming you have the fire energies and
I don't know if he does.
Everything else. But yeah, you're absolutely right that this is Ross's deck doesn't seem very well equipped to go to against Ryan's deck.
No, not at all.
I was wondering why you were giving me like I don't know, man. Okay, but yeah, Ross's deck does not seem well equipped against Ryan's deck. It seems like this is going to be one of those matchups that in paper is lopsided. We'll have to wait and see what happens. If Ryan does win, he'll be a back-to-back Top Cut Invitational champion. That's one thing that we really have to watch out for.
All right, it looks like they are getting all set up and ready to go, so let's cut over to the match. Here we go, the finals. We'll have Ryan on the left, Ross on the right. These two guys are probably tired at this point.
Yeah, I mean, we're nearing midnight here. It's been an incredibly long day, starting with like a 9 a.m. start for the actual top 8 of the World Championships, and here we are now.
Yeah, and Ross was visibly upset when Ryan did beat Yamato in the last round. He was definitely hoping to play Yamato. He has a much better matchup against that Plasma deck that he was running. When he saw the Trevenant Excelgor deck make it to the finals, it was, not this thing.
I mean, I think that's how you feel against Trevenant Excelgor no matter what you're playing, right?
Yeah, unless you're playing Rojano EX, it's usually, not this thing.
Exactly. Now, we've talked about Ryan Sabelhaus potentially being a back-to-back Top Cut Invitational champion. I really want to take a moment and talk about Ross Cawthon and the fact that he's never really been invited to a Top Cut Invitational before, and he's always seemed like he's been long overdue. And now that he's finally been invited, he sees the opportunity, and I'm glad to see him in the finals.
Oh, yeah, everybody knows Ross is one of the best in the world, right? 2-time Worlds finalist. I think he's the only player to qualify every year for the World Championships, dating back all the way to 2002. So that's 12 World Championships, I believe. That's an unprecedented amount. So just unparalleled consistency in the game, and, hey, no surprise to see him in the finals.
Especially considering the fact that it just seems like it's getting harder and harder every year to qualify. This year we were like, oh my God, 500 championship points? Are you serious? Nobody's going to get to that. There's going to be like 10 people that get to that, right?
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden Ross was like, I mean, don't worry about it. I got it.
Yeah.
I have 11 years in a row. You think I'm going to let 500 championship points stop me? No way.
And, he's always coming up with creative new decks. He loves to play those rogue decks. This season mostly played Blastoise. That really is what got him all of his championship points, but then the format kind of changed, and so did he. So he's coming up with a new deck here.
Yeah, it actually seems like Ross is coming into his zone, as strange as this sounds, considering the fact that he's a 12-time consecutive world invitee. I really feel like this season kind of like challenged Ross in a sense, because Ross was always known as this rogue player that played these random decks, and then all of a sudden Ross decides to play this Blastoise deck. It almost seemed like he was defeated by this format. It seemed like Ross had finally given up on being this rogue player. He was like, oh, I'm done. I'm just going to play Blastoise. Blastoise is clearly the best deck. And slowly but surely he's evolved as well as with the format, and here we are with him playing a pretty unique deck.
Yeah, and we do have the handshake, so we are all set, ready to go to the finals of the 2014 Top Cut Invitational. We see Ryan opening up with that Mew EX, can copy any attack on board, and we see a Drifloon for Ross.
He does attach a double colorless energy as well as a couple of float stones to both of his Pokemon in play just to be able to get as many cards into play as possible before he plays the supporter.
Yeah, that was an interesting first turn. He had to put down 2 Float Stone and then Juniper away his Dowsing Machine. So if Ross can get an early startling Megaphone, Float Stone is really what makes the deck work. It gives your Trevenant free retreat, and you only have a limited amount of those. So if he can manage to discard those on the first turn, it could cripple Ryan very early on.
Absolutely. And the fact that he still only has 2 Float Stone remaining in his deck, at most 2 Float Stone remaining in his deck.
Yeah.
That means that if he does start a Megaphone at any point during the game, like when a Trevenant has a Float Stone attached to it, it's only going to remain. That's only going to leave 1 single Float Stone remaining in the deck.
A little difficult to use Startling Megaphone against Trevenant since it does block item cards, but if he has a Lysander to put it to the bench and then a Startling Megaphone, that could certainly come up.
Exactly.
But I don't even know if Ross plays Startling Megaphone, so we'll see.
Well, we might just be talking about a card for no reason. But either way, Ross is going to start his own turn off with a single computer search, I believe.
Yeah. This is just the most consistent A-spec card there is. Discard 2 cards, search for anything. I feel like this is kind of the standard A-spec card. Like, if you just want to start off with a basic deck list, you play this because it's so good.
Yeah, if you play Sabelhaus, you probably go with Dowsing Machine. If you're Japanese, you probably go with Scramble Switch. Otherwise, you go with Computer Search.
Yeah. We also see usually decks with Rare Candy end up running Dowsing Machine since it's so good to get back a 5th Rare Candy sometimes. But, yeah, Computer Search is very good in aggressive decks.
Absolutely. Now, Ross is obviously looking through his deck, trying to find out what's prized. But what secondary Pokemon does Ross absolutely need to get into play right now?
If I'm him, I might want to take advantage of the fact that Mew EX is out there. He could get a Mewtwo EX with a double colorless energy of his own, and then maybe a switch, and he could X-Ball for a quick 2 prizes. That might be his way to go. I think he probably has to be aggressive to win this kind of a matchup.
Oh, absolutely. When your opponent finally gets the lock in play with the Trevenant and the Excelgor and the Mews, and at that point you're pretty much done if you're playing Ross's deck, right?
Yeah.
So you want to avoid that as much as possible. You want to put your opponent on the back foot. The Excelgor, if it's forced to attack itself, then you're not guaranteed to have deck and cover throughout the remainder of the game. You really want to put pressure on your opponent and discard the double colorless if possible.
Yeah, the only way for these aggressive kind of decks to beat these lock decks is to just put on so much pressure that they crumble before they get everything going. It's really difficult to do. Typically, the lock decks are very good against these aggressive kind of decks because, well, they lock them down pretty easily. Being aggressive gets slowed down very quickly by Trevenant and Paralysis. So if Ross is going to win, it has to be just kind of barreling over Ryan before he gets anything.
I'm not sure about this, but do you think Ross's deck plays Keldeo?
I don't think so. There's no reason for him to play it.
Okay, well, without Keldeo EX, then all of a sudden, not all of a sudden, but Ross is definitely in a really bad spot once the Trevenant lock actually gets secured. The Keldeo would have obviously let him, but without it, there's the double colorless energy and the switch. He's going to be able to knock out this Mew EX.
And Ross, he must have heard me because he went right for that Mewtwo X-Ball knockout. Turn 1 took 2 prizes, and now Ryan will have to respond pretty quickly.
That's exactly what you mentioned that Ross would ideally do. I was a little hesitant. I was thinking, Kyle, there's no way he's going to have a Mewtwo, a double colorless, and a switch.
You underestimate these guys.
I underestimate their powers.
So we see just a double colorless go down onto the bench Shelmet and a Trevenant coming into play as well. And an N coming out of Ryan. So he's going to say, hold on, we're going to slow you down a little bit, put you down to 4 cards. Perhaps he's going to try to get an Excelgor out, start to paralyze the Mewtwo, and then push up the Trevenant as that Forest Curse ability takes away all item cards.
Now remember, there are 2 Float Stones missing from Ryan's deck. He only has 2 remaining. He has to find it really soon. Otherwise, the Trevenant isn't going to be as important as it could be.
Yeah. Now, there is 1 Float Stone on the Shelmet eventually that can be shuffled back in with Excelgor's deck and cover. So it's not like it's lost forever, but yeah, for now, it's kind of stuck there.
Exactly. So he's retreating his Shelmet. He's activating Excelgor. He's going to play his first deck and cover of the game, paralyzing the Mewtwo and dealing 50 damage to it. However, no Float Stone, and no more Excelgor in play.
Yeah, he does still have the Shellmat on the bench. He also got that Muna down. If he can get Musharna out, start using Forewarn to get some extra cards, I mean, it's just a matter of time then before he starts to set up. But I don't know. We'll have to see what Ross can do. We don't know how many Switch he plays. We don't know how many Lysander he plays. Even if he can pull those sorts of things off, I mean, can he even knock out Trevenant? I don't think so. Mewtwo doesn't do that much damage.
Yeah, exactly. The Trevenant seems to be like one of those pillars here where you're not going to get past it until you attack it a couple of times, and that's exactly what Trevenant's there to do. He's just there to take a couple of hits, force you into really uncomfortable situations, and then once you knock it out, you have to face another one.
Yeah, I think that's actually the biggest problem for Ross here. He has nothing that knocks out Trevenant easily. Normally, Eviltal decks can deal with it. It's weak to darkness, but all Ross has is Mewtwo and Drifblim and Landers, but Trevenant resists fighting too, so it's like no matter what he does, he can't get an easy knockout on it.
Yeah, it's not looking good for Ross here because as explosive as his first turn was, Ryan had the exact counter that he needed, which was just, all right, I'll paralyze you.
Yeah, I mean, he had turn 2, Trevenant, Excelgor, deck and cover. That's all you can ask for. Right, he got everything he wanted.
All right, so Ross no longer has access to items. He probably won't have access to items for a little bit. Is he locked?
I mean, he's not locked quite yet. There's a lot of things that can happen between now and the end of the game. Ryan hasn't even taken a prize yet, so there's still a lot of time left in the game. But, you know, once Trevenant starts getting active, it starts to get ugly.
I mean, Ross does have a Drifloon. Drifloon. So
he sure does.
I guess he isn't locked, per se, but I'm not liking Ross's position right here.
We'll have to see. We're going to go, a long distance hypnosis. He's going downtown.
I like how Ross stopped that coin flip from coming down in midair.
And Tails. So Trevenant's going to go to sleep. That means he won't be able to retreat. Oh, Ryan doesn't seem to have a very good hand at all. I don't even see a supporter besides those 2 Lysander.
You have great eyes because I can't see a single card.
Well, he's just going to pass the turn, and just like that, Ryan's beautiful start was brought to a screeching halt, it looks like.
Yeah, and he actually stays asleep at the end of his own turn here.
Yeah, Muna is backfiring there, of course. Probably not going to matter. He might wake up coming back into his turn, but he needs to top deck something anyway. He just doesn't have anything.
Yeah. Now, even though he doesn't have anything, he still has his opponent trainer locked, or item locked at least.
Yeah.
And his opponent really doesn't have any attackers. He's got a Drifloon.
Yeah, well, the Mewtwo does have 2 energy on it, but like we've been saying, it's just not going to be an easy knockout on Trevenant.
Maybe it's 40 damage. Plenty of time for the Trevenant player to really draw out of this.
Yeah, so he needs to attach another energy and then X-Ball for 60. If he can do that twice, he'll knock out Trevenant. Seems like he may have time to do that since Ryan's hand is so bad. This is honestly one of the only situations I can see Ross having a chance in this matchup.
Yeah, Ross, like you said earlier, he didn't feel very comfortable about his situation. You have to believe that Ross just felt awful once the Trevenant lock, got applied on the second turn of the game.
Yeah.
He still doesn't feel comfortable, I'm sure, but he's feeling like he's at least got a chance here.
Right. And I'm sure he's trying to find some kind of energy here. DCE would be fine. Fighting energy would be fine. An X-Ball for 40, not great. Looks like that's what he may have to go for, though.
Okay, will Ryan wake up? He does not wake up. He actually has to stay asleep for an entirely another turn.
And, well, he's at least evolving all of his Pokemon. And there we go. Long distance hypnosis will be heads this time. Mewtwo will go to sleep.
He passes his turn, and he wakes up.
Trevenant wakes up. Does Mewtwo? No! And this is just as bad as being paralyzed in poison. Being asleep, you can't attack, can't retreat. Ross is stuck again.
Yeah, Ross, unfortunately, well, he does have a chorus. He's got a chain of choruses. But unfortunately for him, he really can't get anything going. The item lock is just too strong, and we're seeing exactly how strong Trevenant can become when you don't have a way to stop it.
Yeah, this has to be frustrating for Ross. He knows Ryan doesn't have anything, but he can't do anything back, right? He's asleep, he's poisoned, the Mewtwo's not doing enough damage. So even though this is like a big window of opportunity, he's giving Ryan a ton of turns to draw out of his bad hand.
Yeah, now Ryan's deck is actually set up for this kind of situation entirely. Ryan's deck is all about, just cycling your deck as soon as possible and then just using supporter after supporter to really recycle your deck and get a chain of Mews or Excelgors going. So Ryan does have quite a lot of cards that are going to help him on the top of his deck.
Yeah, so we'll see. Does Mewtwo wake up this time?
It doesn't look like it.
No. Uh-oh. And another dead top deck from Ryan, a Mew EX. That's not going to help him right now. Oh, boy.
Well, this is a much slower game than I anticipated it would be.
Really?
It looks like they're... No, actually, I'm lying. This is exactly the kind of pace I expected.
Mewtwo stays asleep for the third time. That Mewtwo just might get knocked out by the poison damage.
It deserves to. The Mewtwo is... Even though it's it's Ross's main attacker, honestly, Ross should theoretically not be in this game given Ryan's start. Obviously, Ryan did not have any supporters to really keep himself, keep his start going. But at the same time, Ryan's start was exactly what he wanted. And I think if we're talking about, the way the matchup's supposed to be played out, it's a really different situation from what we would expect, but it's getting the same result.
All right, so Mewtwo finally wakes up, but now it'll be at 130 damage. Just a couple more turns of that poison will add up, and we finally see a top deck from Ryan. There is the end, the game changer.
The pressure was about to be on Muna to, pull through with another long-distance hypnosis, but N kind of takes the pressure off of Muna for a moment here.
I got to tell you, there's nothing more frustrating than being put to sleep by Muna and having your entire offensive shut down by a little pink thing shooting hypnosis from the bench. That's actually happened to me before in a tournament where I've lost a game because Muna kept me asleep. There's nothing more irritating than that.
I can't say that's ever happened to me, Kyle.
Oh, man. Now, of course, that old Drowsy used to have long-distance hypnosis, so I have no idea why they decided to reprint that ability almost 10 years later, 15 years later even. But
you and I have been playing with the long-distance hypnosis Drowsy in recent memory, and I can't say that I really missed playing with that card.
All right, so the big thing here, will Ryan draw a float stone? Like we said, he had to burn through 2 of them early on. One's still sitting on that Excelgor back there, and the dowsing machine is gone as well. So it doesn't look like he has... Oh, never mind. There's a float stone. That's the big thing. But he does not have a DCE to use deck and cover this turn. He does have an Ultra Ball, though. This could fish him that Musharna.
Yeah, the Musharna will let him look at 2 cards from the top of his deck every turn, which is huge when you're looking for things like double colorless energy, Floatstone, which he finally got, Excelgors, Mews, etc. You're looking for so many different cards that you really want the Musharna to help you smooth your draws out.
Now, if there's something I've noticed about Ryan's deck, there is a crucial piece missing. Most decks run Dusknoir. His doesn't. He just relies on Trevenant and Excelgor to just keep that stream going. Most people like to have that kind of infinite lock there with Dusknoir moving the damage away, but Ryan's just saying, you know what, I'm going to use Trevenant, I'm going to use Excelgor. That's going to get me to victory. Yeah.
Now, that does give you an inherent danger when you decide to, or when you do take knockouts and your opponent gets a free hit on your Trevenant. You can run out of Trevenants if your opponent has enough heavy hitters.
Right.
But this doesn't seem like the kind of deck that can really take advantage of that situation when you're talking about Ross's deck.
Yeah, so it looks like he missed the double colorless. I'm not sure if he used Forewarn already, but we are seeing a level ball, and it looks like he's going to grab either a Phantump or a Shelmet here. Looks like Shelmet is the Pokemon of choice, but we'll see if he can pull off a deck and cover this turn.
Yeah, I'm hesitant to say that he will. Apparently he won't.
Oh, yeah. And this is actually going to open up Ross once again. If he can find a Startling Megaphone, he can discard 2 of those float stones. That'll leave Ryan with just 1 left, assuming he plays 4. So if Ross does play Startling Megaphone, this is a huge, huge opportunity for him to do something.
This is a ton of assumptions, right? First, Ross has to even play the Megaphone. Second, he has to have access to it on the right turn.
Yep.
And, well, third, Ryan can't find the last float stone.
Right. I don't know. There's just a big opportunity here. Otherwise, Ross is just going to take another prize with X-Ball and kind of go from there.
Taking another prize would be nice. He does go down to 3 prizes to his opponent's 6. However, again, Ryan is playing a lock deck. Ryan's really just interested in locking the game down. Once he finally has full control of the game, he'll be able to just start deck and covering every turn of the game and hopefully taking 6 prizes before his opponent can take a single one after that.
Yeah. Now, even though Ross will be taking 3 prizes, those last 3 are a long road ahead.
Exactly.
The first 2 were really simple, but from there you got to think, boy, how am I getting all of these knockouts? Trevenant is so tough to knock out. I'm going to be paralyzed all the time. I mean, what in the world can I do? Well, he's going to Ultra Ball away 2 Pikachu, and we'll see what he grabs.
Yeah, and even when he does knock out a Trevenant, Trevenant's not exactly an EX. Trevenant only gives you 1 prize, so you either have to go through like 3 more Trevenants, which is just a very long time, or you're going to have to get kind of fancy here.
Right, we do see, well, let's see what Ross grabs with the Ultra Ball. Jirachi EX, so looks like he's going to play that down. Stellar Guidance for
Lysander.
I wonder what he's going to go after here.
Well, the Lysander is going to give him a few options. He can obviously go after the Phantom, try to stop the trainer lock before it happens. What else does he have access to? Maybe the Excel? No, the Excel wouldn't make sense.
There are 2 Trevenant in place, so I don't think he's going to go after either of those. Maybe he might go after the Musharna, take away the draw power on Ryan's side.
Yeah, the Musharna wouldn't. I mean, it would make sense, and it's definitely a good option, but it's not really the. Ideally, you would like take a huge advantage of this Lysander, right, and maybe like stop your opponent from trainer locking you, but you don't have access to that.
Well, what this does do is open up a big play at the end for an N. Right, when you have Musharna in play, you're kind of resistant to N. You have more cards to look at. But without that in play, an N to 1 is a very deadly thing for a Trevenant Excelgor deck when they need to constantly be refueling those Excelgor or those double colorless, all that stuff. Yeah,
this is a huge supporter for Ryan, by the way. He gets 7 new cards with his Colress. 7 new cards gives you so many options when you're playing the Trevenant deck. You need so many cards to deck and cover every turn consecutively, and you want to get your Floatstone on your Trevenant and all these other options. And I mean, really, the Colress is a perfect card.
Yeah, so we do see him deck and cover, take down that Mewtwo EX, but this does open up an opportunity for Ross to take a shot at that Trevenant. We'll see if he can find some way to knock it out. It's going to be tough, though. I think the only real way he could do it is with Raichu's Circle Circuit.
Yeah, the Circle Circuit will require a double color synergy as well as a whole lot of bench Pokemon.
Yeah, 2 more. We'll see if he can pull it off. There is a double colorless, though, and a Juniper. So if he can draw 2 basic Pokemon off of this, he has discarded quite a few, though.
Yeah, he discarded 2 Pikachus last turn as well as a few Pokemon over the span of the tournament, over the span of the round. I don't think he had it just based on the reaction Ross had to his new hand.
Yeah, I mean, odds are he wasn't going to draw 2. He discarded 2 Pikachu early on. He discarded a Drifloon early on. Mewtwo already got knocked out. You got to wonder how many basics he even has left in his deck. Maybe like 2 or 3 Landorus EX. We know he plays a Charizard. That honestly might be it.
Yeah, and obviously it's unless Ross is slow rolling, which is entirely within his range.
Forgot he has Voltorb as well. He plays Electrode in the deck, so there's 1 basic Pokemon.
Needs 1 more. Does Ross have it? If Ross does have it, that means he's been holding them both in his hand for a very long time.
Yeah, I think he was trying to decide whether or not to bench it. I think he's actually
going to be 10 short, 20 short.
10 short of the knockout there of the Circle Circuit. I think Ross is actually wondering if Ryan plays Dusknoir. He is very hesitant to bench extra things. If you bench too much stuff that can't do anything, Excelgor and Dusknoir kind of lock you down. They prevent you from doing anything. Dusknoir just moves the damage away from the useless Pokemon, and eventually you just lose. So it looks like he's been very cautious not to bench too many things, but that may backfire here as he wasn't able to get the knockout.
That's a great point, Kyle. Now, either way, Ross wants to bench this with Voltorb, but I think even if you add another weak Pokemon to play, the Electrode is just too nice to have, especially against something like Trevenant, which could sometimes just lock you out of the game. You kind of just want to get it in play, especially when you have a Raichu in the active position that could potentially start attacking for heavy damage.
Yeah, now Magnetic Draw won't be particularly useful because a lot of the time
you have a lot of dead trainers in your hand, items in your hand.
Exactly. So a lot of the time his hand will just be full of stuff, and drawing to 4 doesn't really help you. But it could help in a situation where he plays like an N.
Exactly.
Draws a lower hand size and then fills it right back up.
Exactly, Kyle. And that's exactly why you play the Electrode, is for these end situations where your opponent just is relying on this end card to kind of like take you out of the game before you can even establish dominance.
Right. Now, the name of the game here is, can Ryan continue to use deck and cover? each turn he doesn't, that's a free attack that Ross gets off. So he really wants to be able to deck and cover every turn, paralyze him, and just kind of stop him from doing anything. Any turn he misses is just a little bit more of a chance Ross gets at this game.
Yeah, you don't ever want to miss deck and cover at this stage of the game. This is late enough in the game where your deck is so small that most cards are very important for you, and most cards are the cards that you want to see. So at this point in time, if you miss a deck and cover, you could risk losing the round.
Yeah, and he's going to hit it this turn. He has that double colorless energy. He's going to go ahead and use deck and cover, or not. He was going to put it on the Excelgor. Looks like he may Ultra Ball for Mew EX and go that route instead.
Mew EX is exactly the kind of Pokemon that you want to be deck and covering with. You don't really want to deck and cover with an Excelgor if you don't have to. You want to keep them in play in order to be able to abuse the Mew EX's ability.
Yeah, so there we do see the Mew EX coming down with the double colorless. Just going to come active, deck and cover, shuffle it back in, promote the Trevenant, and there we go.
I feel like I've been Captain Obvious this match, by the way. I keep saying the things that are like the most obvious things in the world to players that have been playing this game for a while and know this deck by like the back of their hands. But I just realized that, and I wanted to point it out.
I mean, there's really not a whole lot complicated going on, right? It's a very basic concept here. When you paralyze your opponent and take away their items, most of the time they can't do anything. Most of the ways to get rid of special conditions are, well, item cards. You know, Switch. I don't think we have Full Heal in the format currently, but that was one of the other cards. But Switch and Escape Rope are the two big ones that most people play. There are other cards like Audino and Pokemon Center Lady, which are Pokemon
All right,
supporters.
stop showing off, Kyle. Stop showing off.
But nobody plays those because, well, first of all, why do you need them? And second of all, Pokemon Center Lady is a supporter. So it's really just Switch and Escape Rope to get out of these special conditions, and, well, you can't play them.
I've been racking my brain for the last 20 seconds trying to come up with a card you might have missed.
Well, the obvious one is Virizion EX, right? To just get rid of the special conditions completely. And Keldeo EX can rush in sometimes, but
all right, that's enough. Okay, so Ross Cawthon still struggling to really find a way out of this, right? Like you've been locked since turn 2.
Yep.
You essentially had a couple of turns to kind of like bust out of it because your opponent stumbled a little bit, but
he did have one turn of items when Ryan promoted the Shelmet.
Correct.
That's about it. Yeah.
Yeah, but he really wasn't able to take advantage of it because again he doesn't do anything to this Trevenant. That's the big problem with the Ross's deck, and it just seems like such a awful matchup against for Ross against.
Oh, he plays
deck.
2 Lysander. So here comes another one, Excelgor being brought in the active
Yeah,
spot.
but again, like you take this Lysander, you attack the Excelgor. Say you knock out this Excelgor, right? You go down to 2 prizes. Then what?
Hey, I mean, it's better than nothing, right?
Well, it is definitely better than nothing, and you can definitely knock out a couple of Trevenant. A lot easier to knock out 2 than 3. I mean, again, Captain Obvious here, but at the same time, both of his Lysanders are gone. I'd be very surprised if he plays a 3rd Lysander, which means two Trevenants have to go down from this point on.
Yeah, I mean, if he can take an Excelgor out of play, that makes it a little more difficult for Ryan to keep that constant stream going. He'll just be left with the Excelgor and the Shelmet, and of course you have to shuffle in the Excelgor every time you attack. So it's just going to put pressure on, right? You need to keep pulling these pieces out of your deck, so if he can pull one of them away, it's going to be one of Ross's chances to win.
Yeah, at that point, you're definitely going to be forced to rely a little bit more on Mew EX than you'd like to, especially given this setup where you have so many Excelgors in play. But if they start knocking them out, then Mew EX is going to be your little hero.
Yeah, we've seen actually a really high count of Lysander from a lot of players in this tournament. I believe Yamato actually played 3 of them in his deck, Ross playing 2 of them. So, you know, in the past we saw people favor Pokemon Catcher. Now it seems like they're going more towards Lysander.
Yeah, it feels like Lysander is one of those cards that, while it was never really underrated in a sense, like nobody ever called the card bad, it was still a card that like didn't really get appreciated for as good as it really can be.
Right.
Being able to just capture your opponent at any point without having to flip a coin is just huge.
Yeah, of course it does take your supporter for the turn, which makes it a lot weaker than something like Catcher, but the benefit here is that it gets past Forest Curse. It's not an item card, so you can go ahead and switch Trevenant out of the active and regain your access to item cards. And it looks like Landorus EX might be coming out to play.
Drifblim also comes down, and we see a switch from Ross. Drifblim, how many double colorlesses do you think are in the discard pile?
I'm not really sure. That's not the right Drifloon, though. That's the one that's good against Team Plasma Pokemon. But he is going to have free retreat. That's the one that has free retreat, so he's going to go ahead with that Hypnotoxic Laser and the Circle Circuit, getting a knockout on the Excelgor.
All right, just blame my eyes for that one. I don't have my glasses on. Leave me alone.
Yeah, that's the one with Derail.
Derail, yeah.
Don't really have much of a use in this matchup, but there it did give him free retreat, so.
I don't know. Your opponent can always just pass with double colorless on the active for no reason.
Yeah, not very likely at this stage in the game, but
another Lysander, this time from Ryan. It's going to activate the freshly played Landorus, and you're going to get a good, nice hit on the Landorus before it can really do anything. The nice thing about this Landorus is that it's obviously an EX.
Yeah, I'm not sure how I feel about that. I mean, he could have knocked out the Raichu there. That's the only thing that Ross has with energy, and I believe he only has a one-card hand, so maybe taking away his only thing with energy besides the Drifloon, which isn't doing anything, may have been the better route, but maybe this is a way for Ryan to buy some time here. Bring up the big, bulky EX, but you also have to wonder, why would he go for Landorus and not Jirachi?
Well, because Landorus has a much heavier retreat cost, so if you say don't have anything in your own hand and you don't expect to be able to deck and cover for the rest, for a few turns, then maybe this way your opponent's going to be forced to just kind of pass his turn while he takes poison damage.
On the other hand, that Trevenant only has 10 HP left, so a simple Hammerhead at any point will knock it out, but I don't know, we'll have to see. There's a lot of factors going on here, especially considering Ryan only seems to have 1 or 2 cards right now.
Yeah, and Ross doesn't really have a very large hand either, though. So he's not guaranteed to be able to Hammerhead.
Right. And looks like a supporter's coming down and N from Ryan, so he's going to draw 4 cards. He really doesn't have much, right? He needs Excelgor, he needs double colorless, he needs another Shelmet to come down or a Mew EX. He needs a lot of resources at this stage in the game, and taking out that Musharna earlier was definitely a big deal for Ross.
Yeah, I don't expect to see a deck and cover this turn. I actually expect to just see Ryan hope that his opponent doesn't have the fighting energy to be able to Hammerhead. I think that's what Ryan's really hoping for here.
Yeah, and in Ryan, he was actually...
A Floatstone, though, is pretty nice here.
I mean, it doesn't really do anything. There's one on the active already. He actually debated playing Tropical Beach before the end and decided not to play it, and it looks like he redrew it. So he's going to have to do it now. He was saying, you know what, I don't want to give Ross the opportunity to fill up his hand. He's only getting 2 cards, but it looks like he's just going to do it now.
Yeah, I said Floatstone because for some reason, I thought Hammerhead doesn't actually deal damage to the bench. I was like, yeah, you can find your way out of this one, buddy. But, yeah, obviously, Hammerhead's a pretty strong attack.
Yeah, so Ryan's going to Tropical Beach for a fresh 7 cards there. He's intelligently retreating the active one to the bench. Trevenant does resist fighting. So he's saying, you know what, if I'm going to get hit by Hammerhead, let's have the active take 10, not have my fresh one take 30 on the bench.
Exactly. Now, 7 new cards for Ryan will allow him to have a pretty strong following turn, even if his opponent does get a knockout and goes down to 1 prize.
All right, we see
a Juniper here from Ross Cawthon off a 2-card end.
Yeah, not bad. We'll see if he can find a fighting energy, though. He has exhausted quite a few of them at this stage in the game. He's discarded a couple to things like Computer Search and I think Ultra Ball somewhere. He's got one in play, so drawing an energy here is not guaranteed by any means. If he can get one, though, he will go down to 1 prize with that Hammerhead, so it would be a big, big opportunity for him.
Yeah, he has 2 prizes remaining. Obviously, the Hammerhead is going to be his first prize, or his 5th prize, I guess, against the bench Trevenant, but he still has to find a way to get one last one. That's assuming he even has the fighting energy to be able to attack in the first place.
Yeah, I think he actually would have been able to get that one last prize with that Raichu on the bench, right? I mean, Landorus EX, the math doesn't work out at this point. He's not going to be knocked out coming back into Ryan's turn. So whenever he knocks out the Landorus, it's just going to get knocked out, right? Then Ross will get a chance to take a shot at the next Trevenant. So that was a huge missed opportunity for Ross. I really think he could have won the game if he had gotten that fighting energy there.
Did Ross miss the poison damage?
Nope, they fixed that.
Okay, cool. I must have missed it while wondering if he missed it.
We do see just explosive stuff from Ryan now.
It's only a 9-card colors, Kyle. Yeah, that's not really explosive.
Gets the Excelgor down, the DCE on the Mew. We're going to see lots of deck and cover action coming up.
Yes, we will. We see a 9-card Colress for Ryan. Obviously, that just means you're going to be deck and covering for quite a while. and the Landorus is not long for this world.
Yeah, it's probably going to live one more turn, going to be stuck there, and then eventually it'll get knocked out by deck and cover. But I don't know, this is still going to be a close finish. Again, N can do all sorts of crazy things, and I don't know, anybody's game at this point.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see who Ryan decides to activate at the end of the deck and cover. He can choose to activate the damaged one just to avoid any type of potential situations, like maybe just give your opponent like a 1-card end instead of other potential options for your opponent. Your opponent already played his Jirachi. He's going to be running low on options. You really just want to avoid any type of shenanigans at this point because Ryan's in a really good spot.
Yeah, it looks like it. That Landorus EX is going to be stuck, but Ryan has to take 4 more prizes. Right, that's 2 more Pokemon EX knockout. He does have that second Lysander at his disposal, though, so after the Landorus goes down, if he can just target down the Jirachi EX on the bench, that would be his easiest path to victory. But again, if he gets hit by an N or something like that, maybe a Raichu could come in and do some work.
I want to take a moment to talk about Ryan's deck choice here, which is just perfect for this Invitational, right?
Apparently.
Yeah. I mean, he not only played the Trevenant Excelgor deck, which is obviously weak against Virizion Genesect and didn't play against any, but he also played no Dusknoir, which is particularly weak against a set of decks, but not this one.
Yeah, I mean, if you would have Dusknoir here, the game would pretty much be over, and you can see why Dusknoir is so strong, right? You would just keep paralyzing the Landorus and move the damage away. The game would actually probably be over at this point. But without the Dusknoir, you see it's a little weaker. It's a little more fragile. The deck becomes a little more consistent when you can fit more cards like Level Ball, Heavy Ball, Ultra Ball, all this stuff to search for Pokemon. But it's the cost of losing that Dusknoir, which, in my opinion, has the strongest ability in the game.
Might have the strongest ability in the game, but it doesn't have the strongest attack in the game. That belongs to Sabelhaus. But still, like
I think it might be deck and cover, actually.
No. You clearly underestimate Junk Hunt. The whole world does. No, but the thing is, yes, you lose Dusknoir's incredible ability, but you gain consistency. And again, I believe that if you expect a similar metagame to the one that we saw here at the Top Cut Invitational, this is kind of like the choice that you go for. You can still win the game without a Dusknoir in play like we're seeing here, and you make sure that you have a much stronger setup throughout your matches.
Yeah, Ryan had a great start this game. He kind of fizzled out a little bit in the middle of the game, but after that, it's been pretty much smooth sailing. Now, Ross plays an N here. Seems it may be a little premature, depending on how many Ns he's used so far. That may be something you want to save until, Ryan has taken those 2 prizes. Now he's going to get 4 cards, and after he takes the knockout, he'll get 2 more cards, and he'll just have more stuff to work with. So it's going to be interesting to see if Ross manages to get another N after Ryan gets a knockout here.
Yeah, it will be. Now, the Landorus EX is absolutely knocked out here at this point. If
Seems
you're
like
excuse me?
Seems like it, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Ross would have to have what would he have to have? You can't. Yeah, it's absolutely knocked out. So, Max Potion, I guess.
No, you couldn't play that. But it depends on whether or not Ryan wants to attack it with deck and cover. I believe it's at, 160 damage right now. So if he just passes with Trevenant active, it'll go to 170 and then 180 back into his turn. So.
Pokemon Center lady. Got it. I got this.
Yeah.
I beat the puzzle.
I'd love to see that, yeah.
I beat the puzzle here, Kyle. Okay, so Ross obviously is going to lose this Landorus. He has to find a way to get 2 prizes. I don't see the option, Kyle.
I mean, the option is there. He has some ways to do it. It's just not going to be pretty. You got to assume the Landorus is going to go down. That Trevenant on the bench with 100 damage is kind of the key. At some point, a Hammerhead can finish it off.
Correct.
Maybe if Ross can use Circle Circuit for 100 on the new one and then finish both off with Hammerhead later on, that would be his way to win.
That would assume that your opponent just doesn't deck and cover. That's really the only way to do it.
Well, he doesn't mind if Raichu gets knocked out, because then Landorus gets to come out later and finish the game with a Hammerhead. So it's actually a pretty complicated situation now.
That's right, actually.
Since Ryan does have to take 4 prizes still, Raichu only gives up 1. So
yeah. Yeah, you're correct. The Landers will bring Ryan down to 2, Raichu goes down to 1, etc. Yep.
Yeah, so it's when we have so much time to think about it because these decks are kind of slow, you can kind of see how the game's going to develop. There are all sorts of little things, but yeah, we just see Ryan uses Tropical Beach there and opting not to use deck and cover, saying, you know what, I'm just going to set up my Pokemon, and I'm going to say, hey, next turn, I'm going to Lysander out your Jirachi after your Landorus gets knocked out by poison. I think that was a really clever move.
Yeah, I'm very happy to see Ryan make this play. It really adds kind of like a stranglehold to this matchup, right? And it puts Ross in an even tougher position. You can see Ross just like racking his brain, wondering exactly what he can do. I mean, it's just such a tough spot.
Yeah, and Ross is going to take his time, try to figure out what he can do. Man, it's tough at this point. He has used 2 Lysander. He's used a lot of Switch. Seems like he may have exhausted almost all of his resources at this point. And that's kind of the name of the game with the Trevenant Excelgor deck. You're trying to exhaust your opponent out of any kind of resources they have, take away item cards, and just, it's a lock deck, right? They're just trying to paralyze them over and over. It's one of the most frustrating things in the world to play against, but hey, it's effective.
Yeah. And one thing Ryan can do actually to get out of this like hammerhead circle circuit lock is actually just activate the damaged Trevenant. Forces your opponent to activate the Landorus EX and hammerhead unless he wants to circle circuit the active one, in which case you knock out the Raichu, and then obviously you have a Trevenant with no damage on it.
Right.
So Ryan does have a lot of options to avoid this kind of potential easy lock that Ross has available to him. So I really don't think that Ross has that plan available.
Yeah, I guess we'll have to find out. So Ross just trying to figure out anything he can do. He is actually going to be able to hammerhead this turn. And he has
an N.
Another N. This is honestly one of the best ways he could have had a shot at this game. He's going to be able to hammerhead the benched Trevenant for a knockout, hitting the active for 10. It's just a matter of what can he promote here. He wants that Raichu ready to circle circuit for 100 since nothing else can really knock out the Trevenant. But who's he going to promote?
Maybe the Drifblim?
Yeah, that would be his only option. But I don't know. It's going to be tough.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely will be. You definitely don't activate the Jirachi or anything like that. You activate the Drifblim, you kind of like obviously let it go.
Yeah.
And then, oh man, it's just tough. It's just really tough when you're Ross here.
Yep, so there's the Hammerhead for 10 to the active, 30 to the bench. Trevenant gets the knockout, but Landorus EX falls to the poison. And Ross is actually going to promote the Raichu.
How much damage does the Raichu currently have?
Looks like probably 60 from a deck and cover at some point. So it'll get knocked out by another one. I think Ross is just kind of going with the plan of, you know what, I'm going to get knocked out, then I get to promote a new Pokemon and start attacking you.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, Ryan...
The Lysander from Ryan is going to actually activate a Jirachi.
Yikes.
He's going to deck and cover, paralyzing and poisoning the Jirachi. Somehow, some way, Ross has to find a way out of this. Otherwise, he loses on his very next turn.
Yep, and the Verbank City Gym's in place, so he'll lose immediately if he doesn't have some way to get out of the paralysis. I don't know what he has left. If he can pull out some kind of miracle here, it would have to be this turn. It's do or die. Ryan with that clutch second Lysander pulling out all the stops here.
Ross is thinking, so he might not just be out of it quite yet. No, never mind. Yeah. Just kidding.
Just making sure. Okay, I lose. That's a bad feeling. You know, this game took a really, really long time.
Yes, it did.
So when you play a game that long and it's finally like checkmate, you just want to look around and be like, man, we played for so long. Is there anything I can do at this point? No, all right. Good game.
I can't tell you how many times it's actually happened to me.
No, okay. It is just the first game, though. It is a best 2 out of 3 series. Ryan will take the first one. Now Ross will have the option to play first in game number 2. What do you think is going to happen here?
Well, I think Ryan knows he has the advantage. Ross knows Ryan has the advantage. Ross is, again, going to try to have an explosive start, and it's up to Ryan to really kind of match it, right? Ryan had the perfect start last turn. He had a Trevenant early on, second turn. He had deck and cover on the very second turn. He had a way to slow down the explosive start and really, like, knock out the Mewtwo before it could get out of hand, right?
Yeah, honestly, Ross kind of had the perfect start last game. That was best case scenario for him. He took 2 prizes in the first turn. Ryan kind of didn't draw much throughout the beginning stages of the game after that quick deck and cover. But honestly, the MVP has to go to Muna in that one. Stalled for a little bit of time until Ryan could top deck his way out of that situation.
Long distance hypnosis is the most powerful ability in the game, right?
Let's not go that far.
Okay. Remember that they are playing for something pretty important here, by the way. Remember that they are playing for something very important here, which is actually an invitation to next year's Top Cut Invitational.
That's correct. And they get, their name in the history books as a Top Cut Invitational champion and our beautiful trophy.
Oh, yeah. We can't underestimate the trophy. The trophy actually is already on Ryan's mantle. I'm sure he wouldn't mind a second one, 2013, 2014.
Yeah, he'd be our first not only 2-time Top Cut Invitational champion, but back-to-back as well. That would be very, very impressive. Just want to take a moment to thank our sponsors for this event, Top Sail Cruises, 8-Bit Planet, and, of course, Legacy Cards. Be sure to give them some love. Check them out. They supported us. They made this tournament possible.
Yeah, thank you very much to our sponsors. We cannot have the Top Cut Invitational without the great community that is the Pokemon community, and I'm just excited to be able to provide this for everybody here.
Right. So now Ross will be going first. Starts off with a Voltorb, not exactly a favorable starter, but hey, I guess there could be worse.
Better than Jirachi, right?
Yeah. That would probably be the only, yeah, I think Voltorb might be the second worst starter.
Yeah, I couldn't think of anything besides Jirachi that I wouldn't want to start with.
Charizard could have been kind of bad as well, but you can see Ryan there going, really, Charizard? What is this? So he's kind of laughing there. This tournament is all about fun, right? It's a competitive tournament. These guys are some of the best in the world, but it's after all the seriousness is over, the World Championships are done. It's kind of a relaxing event for all these guys.
Yeah, it's relaxing, but let's not underestimate the fact that everybody wants to win this tournament.
Yeah.
Seriously, everybody that isn't invited wants to get invited. Whenever they do get invited, they're all talking about wanting to actually win. And, there's something to be said about being a Top Cut Invitational champion.
Yeah, it's like the tournament after Worlds. Like, you may not be the world champion, but at least you're the champion of the internet, we can say.
All right, so Voltorb is feeling pretty lonely for now, so the Ultra Ball is going to find Ross a secondary Pokemon, a first bench Pokemon, and Ross is looking for just maybe some sort of consistency. I really don't know what Ross can really find here. He wants to have explosive starts. He wants to have consistency. He wants to have pretty much a little bit of everything, and just can't have it.
Yeah, well, he can't attack on the first turn going first, so he won't be able to really do much of anything. But I'm curious to see if he'll go for that Mewtwo again, try to rush with that, or if he'll go for a different strategy with Landorus EX. And yeah, it looks like he's going to go for that instead.
Yeah, you have access to either Landorus EX or Mewtwo. You can either start powering up an X-Ball that it's just going to potentially threaten Trevenant with one-hit knockouts or something like that. You never know. Or you can have the Landorus, which is just Hammerhead being an incredibly overpowered attack.
Right, now, one thing here is Ross definitely wants to avoid using a switch if he can. He's going to have to pay 1 to retreat Voltorb, but if he can attach to Landorus this turn, power up Hammerhead next turn, I think that's his ideal situation. Using up a switch is not what he wants to do.
Hypnotoxic Laser is actually going to get a Tails, I believe. Yeah, Tails on Hypnotoxic Laser, so Shelmet's going to stay awake. Not too relevant, but relevant.
Yeah, we could see a yawn. You never know.
Yes, we could.
All right, so here that Hypnotoxic Laser is pretty relevant. The 10 damage will set up for a Hammerhead. If the poison stays on, going back, it'll add up to 30, plus 30 from Hammerhead, so it can be a quick knockout from that Landorus EX. But seemed like Ross didn't have a supporter to play on that first turn, which is kind of interesting.
Yeah, that's entirely right. Meanwhile, Ryan seems to have an excess amount of them himself.
Yeah, he's discarding 2 Colress with that Ultra Ball. Of course, Colress not too great early on. But, I think if I'm seeing correctly, he may have discarded us. No, it's a Drifloon, sorry. I thought that was a Skyla.
Yeah, it was a Drifloon.
Yeah, never mind. My eyes are failing me at this late hour.
It's only midnight, Kyle. Come on now. We've only been awake since 7 in the morning.
Yeah, whatever. So we do see Ryan taking an interesting route here, putting the Float Stone on the Shelmet, realizing that, yeah, if I leave it up there, then Landorus knocks it out. Shelmet actually has a very heavy 3 retreat cost. When it evolves into Excelgor, it gets free retreat, but a very bulky Pokemon. He's going to retreat into Phantom, which does resist fighting, so it's going to make it way more difficult for Ross to get a knockout.
A level ball from Ryan is also going to find him additional Pokemon. Ryan already has, I mean, what I would consider to be an ideal setup for such an early part of the game here.
Now it's ideal. He has the powerhouse, the Muna.
Oh no. Muna, it does come down, and I mean, I'm pretty sure we can just declare Ryan the winner now, right?
That's pretty much how it goes, right? Long distance hypnosis will be Tails, though.
The ever so wild card Muna.
You never know what it's going to do next.
Wild thing.
And looks like Phantom will wake up. Probably not a very relevant flip at all, but hey, I mean, you got to do it.
All right, so Phantom does wake up, and all of a sudden Ryan's right back in this game. Now, now you have Ross over here who wants to Hammerhead, but doesn't really want to just deal 10 damage.
Yeah, it looks like there is a switch, so he may go for a quick Hammerhead here. Oh, a Chorus.
A Chorus does give you 7 cards of your Ross, so that's not bad.
All right, so if he can get a Muscle Band, a Laser, and a Verbank, he can knock out Phantom still. That's a lot to get. I actually don't know if I've seen a Verbank out of Ross yet, but that is an option there. Otherwise, he'll have to settle for a Hammerhead for maybe 10, maybe 30 if he gets a Muscle Band.
Yeah, I'd be surprised if he doesn't play Verbank, so I'm just going to assume he has it until I'm proven otherwise.
Here are the 7 cards for Ross. Another big thing would probably be an energy attachment this turn. Any sort of thing that allow him to keep the pressure on, that's what he has to go for.
Yeah, even an Electrode and playing your hand down with a bunch of Pokemon or something, anything.
All right, so I do see the Verbank. He does indeed play it. That's in his hand right now. That's a risky card to put out against an Excelgor deck, though. When you put it out there, Excelgor just does additional damage. With Deck and Cover, since your Poison does 20 extra between turns, so it's always an interesting decision. Do I want to play a Verbank early on to get a quick prize? If you do, it can backfire.
Yes, it can. Okay. Hypnotoxic Laser from Ross gives him Tails again. So, unfortunately for him, the Phantom is done being tired. And a Verbank City Gym will come down. That is, like you said, a little bit of a gamble here, but I think he feels like he needs to do it.
Yeah, I think so. He knows it's so difficult to knock out any sort of Trevenant, so he's going to try to build up a little bit of damage here. Maybe in the future that will add up to him getting a knockout.
I don't think he has a Muscle Band here.
No, it doesn't look like it. I think he would have played that already. It's just too tempting to take that knockout. He has a fighting energy. He's trying to decide where to put it. Puts it on his bench Landorus EX, probably assuming the active one will get paralyzed and poisoned by Deck and Cover.
Is that the correct play?
I think so. I mean, Land's Judgment, not a very efficient attack. Sure, it can do a ton of damage, but you have to discard your energy to really get the big burst of damage. I don't know where else you would put the energy.
I like how Ross recognized the power of Muna. Immediately goes after it, notices that you just can't win when Muna's in play. And
yeah, I think that's the least likely thing to evolve. It is 60 HP, so you can go ahead and Hammerhead it twice. I mean, you got to assume Ryan plays like 4 Trevenant, 3 or 4 Excelgor. There's only 1 Musharna, though, so try to go after the easy prize. But
yeah.
Not so easy anymore.
Yeah, I mean, the other option was the Phantom, which obviously wouldn't have been a terrible option because you do have to go through these things anyways, right?
Yeah.
So you might as well deal damage to it while it's on the bench, and you can still actually hurt it.
And Ryan championing his Musharna, gets it with the heavy ball, and now the Forewarn begins. But you can recognize that Ross, his main strategy has kind of been, let's go after Musharna and then just try to end Ryan down to a dead hand.
Yeah.
He realizes his matchup is pretty bad, so he's going to try to find any way possible to win.
Now, a Deck and Cover does paralyze the Landorus, and we're going to see Ryan try to establish the lock from this point on.
Yeah, and again, that's going to add up much more quickly than it would if that Verbank weren't in play. Right now, that's going to do 80 damage right off the bat, 110 going back. So now instead of maybe like 3 turns of Deck and Cover, it's only 2 because that damage adds up so quickly.
Yes. Now, man, okay. So Ryan obviously has the start he wanted. Ross does not. Ross didn't even get to take a single prize yet. Ross is already locked down, and he hasn't even really dealt very much damage at all. So Ross is in the tank, clearly, and, I mean, I don't blame him. You aren't in a good spot, and you realize it, and you're trying to find a way, some sort of way to get yourself back in this game. At this point, I think it's looking like you're going to have to sacrifice a couple of Pokemon in order to make your opponent draw dead. So I would probably just start trying to power up some Pokemon and going for the long end game here.
I mean, like we said at the start of this, Ross just doesn't have anything good against Trevenant. I mean, even if Trevenant were to attack using Tree Slam, I don't think Ross really has any efficient way to deal with it. It's just an awkward type. Is just not something he prepared for. Ross's deck is largely a metagame call, but we do see a big Lysander, a Switch, a Hypnotoxic Laser on the Musharna, and again, he's just trying to get rid of it, trying to take away the draw power.
Yeah, as far as turns are concerned, this was a pretty big one for Ross. Ross happened to have the Lysander, and he took full advantage of it by playing a couple of trainer cards or item cards right afterwards. And now, I mean, at least he's doing something to Ryan's board here.
This could be a big sleep flip too. The Musharna is asleep. It's poison. It's going to be at 90 after this turn. So if it stays asleep, I don't believe Ryan plays any switch, just Floatstone. He won't have any way to get out of the active spot. It'll actually get knocked out going back into Ross's turn. So this is going to be a big flip in the game.
Yeah, that's it. That's a good assessment there. If Tails, Ross has a very solid chance of coming back into this game, and it's actually a heads, which means that his opponent is going to wake up, and there goes that option.
Ouch. Well, Ryan doesn't have a Floatstone quite yet. He does have that Forewarn to use, though. Not like in the past where Pokemon powers were shut down by special conditions. No, abilities always work. So
back in our day.
Yeah, back in our day. A decade ago. So we do see a level ball trying to thin out the deck a little bit. Will he draw Floatstone off the Forewarn? It's going to be another big moment.
All right, big Forewarn here. Top two cards. No, there's an Ultra Ball and a Pokemon.
And poor Musharna is going to fall. Uh-oh.
Ooh. So Musharna not only falls, but your opponent also gets a free hit on whatever he wants.
Yeah, not just
that. No deck can cover this turn.
Yeah, not just that. Ryan's hand is dead again. He doesn't have anything. No supporters, no Tropical Beach, no Double Colorless.
At least he's going to have access to Forewarn. Oh, no.
No Forewarn either. So once again, Ross making the brilliant decision, going after the Musharna, taking that away, and it goes down. Ross catches a break there.
Yeah, Ross is obviously, I mean, I hate to say it again, but it feels like I'm beating a dead horse. But we keep talking about how Ross is one of those players that we feel like should have been invited for so long to this Top Cut Invitational. He's proving exactly why we think so. He's just an incredible player, and he finds ways to get into games that he just has no business being in.
Yeah, I feel like that all the time. Ross just always finds a way to win games where it seems like he should lose. He'll find any way out. He's a very experienced player, very clever player, and he's just been playing for so long. He looks for any way out. And, that's kind of a trait a lot of rogue deck players have, right? They always play these crazy things, so sometimes you got to outplay your opponent to get the wins. And then when you play more standard cards, you start to see those win conditions develop.
And at the same time, we have Ryan Sabelhaus, who's just kind of taken Pokemon by storm in the last couple of years. I mean, obviously he's been a consistent player throughout the game, history, but he's taken Pokemon by storm, and he's about to potentially win a Top Cut Invitational for the second year in a row.
Yeah, and I cannot believe my eyes. 3 Hammerheads go down onto an Excelgor and knock it out before it can deck and cover. I don't think I've ever seen an Excelgor actually get knocked out by bench damage.
Well, you saw it here. First time at the Top Cut Invitational. Yeah. So now the Voltorb gets activated here, and that's it.
Yeah, we see a Lysander, and Ryan is crossing his fingers. Please don't retreat. We do see a Juniper, though, so fresh 7 for Ross. It's strange. Ross is getting all these free attacks. Normally Landers is such a strong Pokemon. Hammerhead just, I mean, if you give someone 4 turns to Hammerhead, usually you're going to lose the game, but he's only doing 10 at a time to Trevenant. So Ryan can kind of sit here for like 10 turns and finally draw something. Maybe.
Yeah, that's exactly why Ryan's so heavily favored in this matchup, and why we were so surprised that Ross is making such a good game of this, because in reality, Ross really has no business being in a game where he deals 10 damage to the active Pokemon every turn.
Yeah. Oh, he does hit that double colorless to retreat the Voltorb, so Ryan's master plan has failed, trying to buy a turn.
Poor fella.
See another Hammerhead and 30 to the Shelmet. What's the top deck this turn?
A level ball does let him find probably an Excelgor here.
Yeah, no, looks like a Shelmet. He appears to be out of Excelgor.
Oh,
so that Shelmet's going to be another free prize. Is Landorus really going to Hammerhead about 27 times to win? Is that what we're going to witness?
I vote no.
I don't know. With each passing turn, I gain more faith in Ross's Landorus.
No, you know what? I do agree with you that he's making not only a game of it, but it also almost seems like he's favored, right? It almost seems like
a little
Ross
bit.
Is
He's
favored
down
to
to
win this
3
game.
prizes. 3 prizes. What is going on?
Ryan's just sitting there going, well, this is also another dead card. I guess I'm passing it again. But Ryan has so many cards that he can really top deck. I have to stress this. Ryan can top deck a Tropical Beach and draw 7 new cards. Any supporter, really.
Even a double colorless can paralyze Landorus. That'll knock it out with poison damage eventually.
Yeah, exactly.
So much stuff he could draw. He's just not drawing any of it. And I wish I kept track of how many times this Landorus is using Hammerhead. This is like Hammerhead number 8.
I'd say number 22. I think that's where we're at.
We're getting up there. What's the card for Ryan this turn?
Well,
Sacred Ash.
Sacred Ash.
Oh,
well, that's
man.
more Excelgors, I guess.
Well, he's going to shuffle in good old Musharna. So.
Muna.
Yeah, Muna and Mush. Oh, a Colress. Oh, he finally top decked a supporter. All right. So
this Colress is big. This does let him draw 6 new cards. This is pretty big here for Ryan.
Ross, that's not what he wanted to see. He was hoping that Ryan would keep drawing level balls and heavy balls.
Ross was just sitting there going, man, I only had 9 more turns before you were dead.
Well, to be fair, there's 90 damage on that Trevenant, so that's going to be a free Hammerhead on the bench at some point if that comes up. Shelmet has 30 on it. If that doesn't evolve, that could be an easy prize. So there are opportunities for Ross. It's just going to be tough.
Yeah, absolutely. 6 new cards for Ryan. Ryan's going to have a whole lot more options available to him than he had in previous turns.
Oh, yeah. And we see Floatstone.
And this is option number 1, Floatstone on the Trevenant here.
And there is the double colorless. Finally, we see a deck and cover once again from Ryan. Going to go ahead, poison, paralyze the Landorus, hit it for 50 as well. And it looks like there may actually be, let's see, if there's 80 on the Landorus, that's going to be some really bad math where Ross gets knocked out going back into Ryan's turn. That's the perfect knockout with these Excelgor decks.
Yeah, it feels like Ross just realized that he kind of blew breath out of his mouth and realized that he's going to have to find a new avenue for victory here.
Yeah. So Landorus will be paralyzed and poisoned. I guess if Ross could pull off like the miracle play here, the second Lysander and another switch, he could knock out both Shelmet and Trevenant at the same time. And that would basically win the game, I think. Right? He would take away any option to deck and cover. He would go down to 1 prize. So if he can pull off this miracle play, he may actually win a game in this series.
Now, Ross has already played a single switch, I believe. I mean, it might have only been 1, but I've definitely seen a switch out of him.
Yeah, I think he's played 2 so far. So
okay.
He's played 1 Lysander, 2 switch. His resources are running kind of low, but if he can manage to do it, that would be a game-winning play, I think. Yes,
it would put Ryan in an incredibly tough spot and more than likely just end the game right there, assuming no end shenanigans. So Ross obviously, well, I shouldn't say obviously, but he probably doesn't have that option available to him. Otherwise, he'd just be jumping for joy and
I think so.
Doing it by now.
Even Ross, who loves to take his time.
Yeah.
Even he would be all excited about that one.
Yeah, so I'm pretty sure that option's not going to be available, which means that Ross now has to find a different way to try to win this game. And with the Landorus going down and giving up a couple of prizes and your opponent having such a large hand, ay.
Uh-oh, we're seeing a double colorless go on to the Drift Blim. We may start to see some crazy stuff happening. Are we going to see a derail?
Well, that's when you know you're grasping at straws, right?
Seems like it. Oh, we do see an N. You know, you got to question the timing of that because for sure Ryan's going to take the knockout. He's going to get 2 prizes. Yeah. So not only is he going to get 6 off the end, but immediately afterwards he'll get 2 more prizes. So he's going to get 8 cards to work with, and that's just a ton. And you're not really sure what Ross is going to be trying to go for here. I think best case he gets something like a Pikachu or another Drifloon, something that's easily knocked out by a deck and cover, not something that's going to get locked and get knocked out going back into Ryan's turn.
Yeah, I mean, again, Ross is grasping at straws here. He knows that given the way the game's currently going, it's not looking like it's going to be a victory for him. So he's trying to find some sort of card combination that gets him out of the situation.
Yeah, and Landorus EX will fall to the poison damage like we've been saying. Just looks like Ross. Oh, did we have a miscalculation here? Oh, Ross is actually going to bench the Pikachu. I don't think he thought that the Landorus was getting knocked out. He did get a Pikachu. That's actually a huge draw. So he's
now, why is it a huge draw, Kyle?
Well, the way the math works with the Verbank in play, anything on Ross's board is going to get hit by deck and cover for 50 plus 30. And then coming back into Ryan's turn, it'll get knocked out by poison. So he won't have any way to attack anymore. He'll just be constantly locked and then knocked out going back into Ryan's turn. Pikachu only has 60 HP. It'll get knocked out immediately by deck and cover. So it'll give Ross an opportunity to attack one of the Trevenant.
So what you're trying to say is that because Pikachu is so weak, he's
helps you.
Yeah, it's actually a boon for you.
Yeah, it's funny how those things work sometimes. Trevenant and Excelgor take advantage of perfect math sometimes, not knocking things out immediately, using some clever tricks. But Pikachu doesn't get tricked. He's just a 60 HP Pokemon.
Pikachu doesn't get tricked. He just gets knocked out.
Yeah. We do see a Dowsing Machine in Ryan's hand, though. If he grabs the Lysander, it could be a big deal. They could go after the Landorus EX on the bench, go after 2 more prizes. It's strange. You really only think Lysander's big in this deck for targeting down Keldeo EX, since it can rush in and kind of ruin your day. You want to Lysander it out and lock it in place, but here we're seeing Ryan just kind of avoid the non-EXs with Lysander, bringing out Landorus EX once again and saying, you know what, I'm just going to take my prizes in chunks of 2.
Yeah, that's a very strong play by Ryan. He wants to avoid any kind of shenanigans against his Excelgor on the bench, anything like that. You just want to take a couple of prizes, get yourself in a position where a single Lysander to your opponent's final EX, whenever he does decide to play one, just ends the game right there.
Yep. And once again, we're left with Ross wondering what to do. Ryan has an Excelgor in play, he has a Shelmet, he has 2 Trevenant, so he has pretty much everything he wants. As long as he can keep drawing double colorless, he can keep using deck and cover, he can keep paralyzing Ross, and this is just the eventual lock. This is why the deck is so strong. So can Ross find any way out, or will Ryan miss an attack at some point?
Ross is looking for... He's still just looking for the Lysander switch, right? That's pretty much the only option that he's got available to him.
Yeah, I mean, even if he gets that at this point, it doesn't seem like a very good option. That Shelmet on the bench evolved into Excelgor, so the double prize play isn't really there anymore unless he can back it up with a Hypnotoxic Laser as well. He is going to drop a second Fighting Energy on the Landorus, and looks like he's going to go for a Juniper. So he's not going to go for that play at all.
Yeah, he doesn't have the play available to him. He actually just is forced to draw 7 new cards, and with attaching the fighting energy to the active Landorus, you have to believe it's probably going to get knocked out, right?
Yeah, I'm actually curious as to why he put it there. It seems like it could be better served on the Drifblim so it can start attacking, or the Pikachu perhaps to even get that ready to go. He may just be a little frustrated at this point, being constantly paralyzed and poisoned. I don't know.
Yeah, that's really what it seems like, is just frustration starting to set in. You kind of see the writing on the wall, and an end from your opponent is even worse.
Let's not forget it is pretty late. These guys have been up all day. It's way past midnight here in Washington, D.C., so they got to be getting tired at this point, so maybe the math doesn't start to add up as well as it did earlier in the day.
Yeah, once you start dealing with things like poison damage in between turns, and then Excelgors and this, that, and the other, you're just, all right, man. Can you knock me out? Yeah, okay, well, all right.
All right, here comes the level ball. Are we going to see? No, I thought we were going to see Muna, but just another stupid Shelmet.
What a letdown. Jeez.
Oh, man. All right, so another Shelmet does come down. The constant stream of Excelgor, it's never ending. And we probably will see a deck and cover knockout with the poison damage. What else can you say?
Well, I can say that Ross does... I'm looking at Ross right now, and he looks pretty defeated. Like he looks like he's just kind of like just playing it out, like letting things happen however they do happen, and just hoping that Ryan stumbles at this point.
Yeah.
He's just hoping Ryan just draws into an absolutely dead hand and goes like, well, I guess I just lose.
Oh, man, that was a huge play. Ryan actually just countered his own Burbank City Gym, or Ross's Burbank City Gym, with a Tropical Beach. Now with a deck and cover. That'll leave Landorus with 10 HP.
Yes, it will.
And once again, going back into Ryan's turn, we'll have a poison knockout. So he's playing the math beautifully. He's saying, who needs Dusknoir? I'll just do math.
Yeah. What he's saying is, I hope you don't have Lysander and switch.
Yeah.
If you do have Lysander and switch, then my play looks actually awful. But if you don't, then I pretty much just win the game.
Yeah, he'll take the risk at this point. I mean, it's pretty unlikely that Ross has both of those in hand. Even if he does, I mean, what does he do? I mean, he could go after an Excelgor maybe and perhaps knock it out and set Ryan back a little bit, but is it going to be enough to lose him the game? Probably not.
Yeah, it seems unlikely, right, at this point. It seems like Ross just ran out of options. He ran out of options so fast this game, too.
I mean, he got like 10 free hammerheads, but it wasn't enough.
Yeah, and even those hammerheads weren't really his option. They were just like, well, this is the only option I have available.
Yeah.
I hope this works.
We do see a Chorus for 7. The Drifblim does get the second energy, so it can start using Derail. He may have to be the champion for Ross here, derailing to victory.
Yeah, the ever so strong Derail against your opponent with 0 energy in play.
Yeah, well, it does do 70 damage.
Yeah, I mean, it's not a useless attack, and you do only give up 1 prize with it, which is absolutely relevant. But the fact that you're not about to be knocked out at the end of your own turn is really what the problem is here.
Yeah, so we see Raichu coming into play. Looks like that's probably going to be the Pokemon that Ross decides to sacrifice next.
Yes.
It is going to take 2 deck and covers to knock it out, so there's a potential that Ryan misses one of them. Only has 2 cards in his hand. So even though earlier putting up the Pikachu is kind of the clever play, now it's going to be using the Raichu to force Ryan to use more deck and covers.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. The fact that the Burbank City Gym is gone now, it actually kind of backfires at this point.
And never mind, Ross decides to promote Pikachu, going with the knock me out strategy so I can begin attacking.
So the Pikachu will be knocked out at the end of this turn thanks to the double colors that just got attached to the Excelgor. And now an end by Ryan as well is going to actually bring Ross down to 3 cards in his hand with with Derail in play, Drifblim with Derail in play, and no other energy.
Well, fortunately, Ross does have Electrode for Magnetic Draw, so he'll go to 4 cards no matter what happens. The thing I'm worried about for Ryan is he's going to 2 cards. He can knock out Pikachu, or he can decide to Tropical Beach this turn, but his 2 cards are going to have to be really good if he wants to actually deck and cover here.
Well, we'll have to wait and see what kind of cards he gets. The Tropical Beach wouldn't be a terrible play, obviously, but at the same time, you almost kind of want to get yourself down to a single prize and just hope your opponent doesn't counter your own Tropical Beach in case things go wrong.
I feel like he's not under any real pressure. Even for Ross to attack, he would need an energy or a Raichu. So I think the best thing is actually to retreat to the other Trevenant, Tropical Beach, and just set up an army of Excelgor that just makes it an inevitable win.
Well, yeah, all that does is become weak to win in instead.
Yeah, which I think he'll accept at this point, right? He's not under any immediate danger of losing. Ross still has to take 3 knockouts to win. Nothing easily knocks out his Pokemon, so I don't know.
Yeah, that's really the decision that Ryan had available to him. He's the thinking there is, do I become weak to win, or do I just take this prize and waste a turn where I could have Tropical Beached?
Yeah, and he made the right move, I think.
Yeah, okay, yeah, absolutely. I definitely don't disagree there. So now Ross, on the other hand, though, does have a turn where he can actually attack for once.
Yeah.
And unfortunately,
we'll see about that.
And unfortunately for him, though, he has to attack into a Trevenant with full HP.
Yeah, Ryan intelligently did retreat to the fresh Trevenant. So now even if Drifblim wants to go out there and finally attack, Trevenant still survives. So I'm not really sure what Ross can do here. If he has an energy, he could retreat and then derail. If he can evolve to Raichu, he can retreat and derail. But otherwise, 70 isn't really cutting it at this point.
No, it's not. It's not. The derail is just not enough here. If you could have gotten rid of the double colorless energies, maybe, but obviously he can't. So it's just, it's really rough for Ross. It's just such a rough matchup.
Yeah, rough matchup and a rough situation here. He was just kind of hoping that Ryan would take the bait and knock out the Pikachu, but Ryan's a little too smart for that.
Yes, he is. Now, Ross just doesn't have any options available. I don't know. I'm trying to come up with something to give Ross, a glint of hope here, but
I'm sure he is too.
yeah, I think that's what's really going on in everybody's brain right now is just what can Ross do, and nobody can come up with a really good answer here.
Yeah, for one, I will be very happy when Excelgor rotates out next season. That is one of my least favorite cards ever printed. I think deck and cover is just absolutely silly, especially when combined with a card like Trevenant where you lock down items. So I will be the first to say goodbye Excelgor next year.
Yeah, Excelgor, even though it's not overpowered by any means, it's also just a... Well, there's a Lysander. Before I get into this rant, there's a Lysander on this Excelgor, which is going to actually put a lot of pressure here. I kind of like this. It's going to... Ooh, the muscle band as well.
Muscle banded derail for a knockout on an
Drift
Excelgor. Drifblim is coming in big, and I really doubt Ryan expected that one. But he does have a Shelmet sitting on the bench. If he can manage to get another Excelgor and a double colorless, he can easily just paralyze.
He has a 7-card hand still, right? Yeah, of course, his opponent Lysander.
So he has a lot of options to deal with this situation. We do see the DC in his hand. Heavy Ball will probably fetch him another Shelmet. That's where 3 Retreat actually comes in handy, being able to search out both Shelmet and Trevenant. Heavy Ball becomes a pretty versatile card. And it's just, well, he needs to draw Excelgor. Yeah,
he needs to draw Excelgor. He does get to chorus for 9 cards, though. So it seems pretty likely here.
Yeah, now the cool thing is, well, not the cool thing, but the thing here to watch out for is that Ryan, I think he had an Excelgor knocked out and maybe perhaps 2 of them. So you got to wonder how many are left in his deck, how many ways to search for it are left. It's not a given that he draws one here.
1, 2 cards, 3 cards, 4 cards. There it is.
Never mind.
On the 4th card. It is a given, Kyle. He does draw into it.
I should just never doubt Ryan. What am I thinking?
All right, well, he does find the Excelgor 4 cards into his 9-card chorus. He actually gets a Burbank City Gym in play as well, which is actually super relevant because it's going to make the Drifblim get knocked out at the end of Ross's own turn.
That was a big, big draw off there. Not only the Excelgor, but also the Burbank City Gym. Again, we're going to have that perfect math, and Ross has burned his 2 Lysander already. He's got no way to get out of this.
Ryan's playing this extremely well, by the way.
Yeah. I mean, it's no surprise that he won our Top Cut Invitational last year, and no surprise that he's back again. I think Ryan, right now, may be the best player in the world. I won't be afraid to go out and say that.
Yeah, I think it's pretty safe to say at this point that Ryan is, if he's not the best player in the world, he's absolutely in the running. And I have no doubt that he's like one of the top 3 players.
Oh, absolutely. He's a machine, man. I mean, for the past 3 years, he's won regional championships. He was a runner-up at nationals. He made top 16 in nationals this year. He's qualifying for worlds all the time.
And he seems to do it effortlessly.
Yeah. Winning our tournaments all the time.
Yeah.
I mean, what can't this guy do?
Apparently he can't lose. That's what he can't do.
I guess so. Now we are going to see an N from Ross. Not really sure what he's trying to get, but he will put Ryan down to 2 cards. That's actually really relevant. Of course, Ryan will get one off the prize, one off the top of the deck, so we'll have 4 cards total to work with, but that's a low hand size. He's going to need Excelgor and a double colorless to do anything.
Yeah, no Tropical Beach anymore, obviously, because of the Burbank City Gym. But still, the Drifblim, which is the only Pokemon with any energy in play on Ross's side of the board, is going to go down. And Ryan's going to be down to a single prize. So even if he doesn't get a knockout, or even if he doesn't get to attack for the next few turns, he still has an army of Trevenants, which can take a lot of hits.
Yeah, the question here for Ross is going to be, what does he promote after the Drifblim goes down? I think you probably just have to do Raichu and just say, you know what, if you get another Excelgor and a double colorless, I lose.
Yeah.
Good game, congratulations. Promoting Landorus just seems like a death wish. It's not going to take 2 prizes in time, so we'll have to see what he promotes.
Well, the thing is, if you think about it, what's your opponent going to do besides deck and cover?
Well, looks like Ryan's just going to deck and cover.
Yeah.
He's got all sorts of stuff.
Yeah, the thing is, like, if he was going to deck and cover, then he was going to win anyways, right?
Well, yeah, that's why you would.
So it really doesn't matter what you activate between the Landorus and the Raichu.
Well, I was saying, what is going to be the better attacker in that situation? I think Raichu is more likely to set up a game-winning play than Landorus would be, but deck and cover's basically going to end the game no matter what.
Yeah, the deck and cover here is going to make it so that, I mean, you have to have another Lysander in your deck and hand, and you have to have a switch here. Otherwise, the poison damage is just going to be too much.
Ryan is taking a look, seeing, okay, how much of this stuff have you gone through? How much more do I have to worry about? Are you out of these resources yet? And I think the answer is yes. We see the deck and cover onto the Landorus EX, poisoned and paralyzed for the millionth time. And now it just may be one more turn before we declare Ryan Sabelhaus our two-time back-to-back Top Cut Invitational champion.
Yeah, I mean, at the most there's 2 turns, assuming that your opponent just doesn't have a switch or Lysander switch.
Well, the thing about Landorus is he has 3 retreats. So even if, Ryan doesn't ever deck and cover again,
exactly,
Landorus is stuck and the game's pretty much over. But we do
Jirachi here, does he have another Lysander in the deck?
Ross is going to make this interesting. Does he have a Pokemon Center lady?
Pokemon Center lady will keep Ross in this game. Lysander plus switch will keep Ross in this game. That seems to be it.
N, unfortunately, will not.
N does not keep Ross in this game, but it is a strong card in most situations.
Very strong. It's going to prevent Ryan from attacking probably, but that doesn't really matter.
No, it doesn't. And you have to wonder what Ross is really doing right now at this point. Like, I mean, obviously you don't want to concede the game. There's no real reason to concede. Your opponent can always just scoop his cards up for no reason.
It's wishful thinking, I think, but
your opponent can just graciously acknowledge defeat for no reason.
Yeah, Ross not one to give up. There is a magnetic draw for 2 extra cards. You gotta wonder what in the world is he digging for at this point.
Yeah, the Jirachi would have found him the Lysander, I guess, unless he didn't have the switch in his own hand, which is potentially possible. So and he passes the turn.
All right, so poison continues to rack up damage.
An Excelgor here will end the game, but he does not have it, and he actually just passes the turn. Now, if Ross passes the turn, the game is over.
Oh, yeah. The poison damage just adds up. We have
Ross draws a card. He draws a muscle band. That is obviously not. There it is. The handshake.
It is.
Ryan Sabelhaus is a 2-time back-to-back Top Cut Invitational champion. Congratulations to Ryan Sabelhaus.
Very well played. That matchup, not great for Ross at all, but he made it exciting as he always does. What more can you ask for from the finals? A bad matchup that got extended into really long, exciting games.
Yeah, Ross actually provided some very great games for us, and I have no doubt in my mind that Ross is still going to come back to be to play in the Top Cut Invitational at some point or another. And this is not going to be the last that we've ever seen of Ross.
Unfortunately for Ross, his legacy of second place continues.
Did you really have to mention that right now?
Oh, yeah.
Hopefully the guy can't hear you, because I'm sure those words are going to sting.
Oh, man. Of course, 2-time Worlds finalist and now finalist here at the Top Cut Invitational. But absolutely congratulations to Ryan Sabelhaus.
Yes.
Our not new defending 2014 Top Cut Invitational champion back-to-back. Setting the bar pretty high.
Can you imagine if he actually goes back to back to back? We got 1 year to find that one out.
Hey, we got a 3-time world champion. Why not a 3-time Top Cut Invitational champion?
And it's so cool that these are probably the 2 best players in the world right now. Hey. And they're both just winning these tournaments back to back, and 2013 world champion, etc.
Yeah. I mean, what else can we say? But thank you, everybody, for watching. This was an exciting tournament. As always, we love keeping this tradition alive. Anything else you want to say, Josue?
No, other than I can't wait to see everybody next year at the Top Cut Invitational 2015.
Yeah, and once again, I want to say thank you to our sponsors, Top Sail Cruises, 8-Bit Planet, and Legacy Cards for making this event possible. And, of course, everyone out there in the Pokemon TCG community who supports us. We are nothing without our fans, without our sponsors, and we're just happy to be able to put on this event one more time, hopefully every year.
Exactly. Thank you guys so much. It's been an absolute pleasure, and I think we're finally signing off after a very long Sunday.
Oh, yeah. It's been a long weekend, but we say goodbye here from Washington, D.C. See you next year.
Have a good one, guys.